In my last video, I spoke directly to men about the things we carry in silence, the words we never say, the emotions we bury because we were taught that staying strong means staying quiet. And after sharing that, I sat on the porch for a long time, thinking, watching the trees move, listening to the quiet. And there was one memory I couldn't shake, one memory I've carried for years. Something I still hear in my mind. Something my wife Eleanor said to me just before she left this world. I'm 87 now, and I've learned that some words stay with you forever. They don't fade. They don't soften. They don't leave. You hear them in the silence. You hear them when you wake up. You hear them when you walk through an empty room. And Eleanor's final words changed everything for me. But by the time I truly understood them, I had already wasted 41 years. Eleanor and I met when we were both young. She was 22. I was 24. I still remember exactly what she looked like. Curly, light brown hair, a soft summer dress, a smile that made the whole world feel easier, and eyes that noticed everything. She was warm in a way I never was. I was quieter, more serious, more guarded. But Eleanor had this way of stepping right past every wall I built, like she always knew there was more inside me than I let people see. We built a beautiful life together, not a perfect one, a real one. A small house, a busy kitchen, long work days, bills on the table, children running through the hallway, family photos, arguments, laughter, hard seasons, good years, life, and through every season, Eleanor stayed steady, strong, patient, present. I loved her deeply. There was never a question about that. But looking back now, I see something painful. I spent decades loving her, without fully showing her. I thought being a good husband meant working harder, providing, fixing what needed fixing, taking care of responsibilities, being dependable, and I was dependable, always. If something broke, I fixed it. If bills were due, they got paid. If the family needed me, I showed up. I believed that was love, and part of it was. But Eleanor needed something more than my reliability. She needed me, not just my work, not just my effort, me, my attention, my presence, my heart. And I didn't understand that soon enough. I remember one evening so clearly. Our daughter had already moved out. Our son was building his own life. The house had finally become quiet. Too quiet. Eleanor was making tea. The light over the sink was on. The radio played softly in the background. And she looked at me and smiled. Then she said, "Walter, come sit with me for a little while." Such a simple thing. Just a few minutes. And I answered without thinking. Maybe later. I just need to finish something. I still remember the pause, the tiny pause. She nodded, still smiling. Okay. That was all. No anger, no complaint, no guilt. Just okay. And I went back to what I was doing. I don't even remember what it was. I honestly don't. Whatever felt urgent that night disappeared from memory years ago. But her voice didn't. That stayed. Because later, I understood what she was really asking. She wasn't asking for help. She wasn't asking for anything difficult. She was asking for a moment, for connection, for me. And I gave my attention to everything else. For years. I told myself there would be more time. Tomorrow, next week, after work, after retirement, later, that dangerous word, later, and then one day, later ran out. Eleanor got sick slowly. At first it didn't feel serious. She looked more tired, rested more, said she felt fine, but I knew her too well. Something had changed. Then came doctor visits, blood tests, hospital hallways, waiting rooms, that smell hospitals have, that silence people try to fill with small talk, and then the truth. The kind of truth that changes every sound in your body. I drove us home that afternoon, hands tight on the steering wheel, barely speaking. Eleanor looked out the window quietly, calm, while my whole chest felt like it was collapsing. I wanted to say something strong, comforting, wise. Instead, I said almost nothing, because fear had stolen every word, and Eleanor, even then, reached over and touched my hand, like she was the one comforting me. The weeks after that felt unreal. Time became strange. Some days moved painfully slow. Others disappeared before I could catch my breath. People called. Meals were dropped off. The children visited more often. The house stayed full, and somehow still felt quieter than ever. Eleanor changed, not all at once. Little things first. She got tired more easily, stopped standing in the kitchen as long, needed help walking up the stairs. Then she began resting in our bedroom more. The room where we'd slept beside each other for decades. The room where we whispered about money when we were young. Where we stayed awake listening for babies crying. Where we celebrated birthdays. Where we fought. Where we forgave. Where life happened. And now I sat beside her there, watching someone I loved become weaker and feeling helpless. I did everything I knew how to do, brought water, fluffed pillows, called doctors, adjusted blankets, picked up prescriptions, made sure everyone stayed informed. I stayed busy, because busy felt safer than stillness. Busy felt like control. Stillness made room for truth, and truth was terrifying. One afternoon, Eleanor was resting by the window. The curtains were half open, soft light on her face, and she looked beautiful, not in a dramatic way. Just Eleanor, familiar, gentle, the woman I had loved for 41 years. And she said quietly, "Walter." I sat beside her. She reached for my hand. Her fingers felt lighter than they used to, and she smiled. A tired smile, but warm. Then she asked me something simple. "Do you remember our first apartment?" I laughed softly. Of course I remembered. Tiny kitchen, old windows, the radiator that rattled all winter. We barely had money, a folding table, second-hand chairs, and somehow, those years felt rich. Eleanor smiled and closed her eyes for a second. Then she whispered, "I was happy there." I nodded. So was I. And then she opened her eyes again, looked straight at me, and said something I wasn't ready to hear. "Walter, we had a beautiful life." My throat tightened. I nodded again, because we did. We really did. Then she squeezed my hand, very softly, and she said, "But sometimes, I missed you even when you were right beside me." I felt my chest drop, like the air had disappeared. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. Because she didn't say it with anger, not blame, not bitterness, just honesty, gentle honesty, the kind that cuts deeper because it's true. And then she said words I will hear for the rest of my life. "Walter, I never needed more from you. I just needed more of you." That was it. Quiet, simple, soft, and it shattered something inside me, because suddenly 41 years replayed in my mind. Every time she asked me to sit down and I said later. Every dinner where I kept thinking about work. Every conversation I rushed. Every moment I was physically there, but mentally somewhere else. Every time she reached for connection, and I offered responsibility instead. I had loved her, deeply, completely. But I had spent so many years thinking love was proven by effort, by carrying weight, by solving problems, by providing. And Eleanor was telling me, in the gentlest way possible, that what she treasured most was presence. Just presence. A shared cup of tea, a few extra minutes, looking at each other, being fully there, not fixing, not planning, not solving, just being together. And I wasted so much time believing I had more of it. That night I stayed beside her until she fell asleep. I didn't move, didn't check anything, didn't answer anyone. I just sat there holding her hand, listening to her breathing, watching the light fade outside the window. And for the first time in many years, I was completely present, exactly where I was, exactly where she needed me. And I kept thinking one thing: please let me have more time, just a little more, enough to do better, enough to say what I should have said years ago. The next morning felt different. I can still remember it. The light through the curtains looked softer. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Eleanor was awake. Her eyes were tired, but peaceful. And when she saw me sitting there beside her, she smiled. A small smile. The kind only she could give. Like she was comforting me without saying a word. I leaned closer, held her hand. And for a while, neither of us said anything. After 41 years together, silence between us never felt uncomfortable. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. I looked at her face. Every line, every detail I'd seen thousands of times. And suddenly I was remembering everything. Her laugh in our 20s, her standing barefoot in the kitchen, her holding our son as a baby, dancing with our daughter in the living room, folding laundry, reading by the window, calling my name from another room. A whole life, 41 years, and in that moment, I would have traded every achievement, every dollar, every busy day for more time. Just one more ordinary year, one more month, one more afternoon, one more chance to sit beside her without rushing. I squeezed her hand, and for the first time in a very long time, I said exactly what I felt. No walls, no holding back, no waiting. I said, "Eleanor, I'm sorry." My voice shook, and I didn't care. I loved you every day, but I should have shown you more. I should have slowed down more. I should have listened longer, sat beside you more, looked up more. I thought I had more time, and I'm sorry. Tears rolled down her face, and mine, and she shook her head gently. Then she whispered, "Walter, you loved me well." I could barely breathe. And then she said, "I just wish you had known sooner, that you didn't have to carry everything alone." That sentence stayed with me too, because she knew me. She knew how heavy I carried life, how often I stayed quiet, how often I convinced myself strength meant handling everything by myself. She looked at me one more time, and her final words were soft, almost a whisper. But I hear them clearly even now. She said, "Be here while you still can." That was it. Be here while you still can. A few hours later, she was gone, and the house changed forever. The quiet felt different. Her chair stayed empty. The kitchen felt unfamiliar. I'd reach for something to tell her, then remember. I still catch myself doing that, even now. And there are days I sit on the porch, watching the trees move, hearing birds in the distance. And I think about how easy it is to miss your own life while you're trying so hard to manage it, especially as men. We think responsibility is enough. We think working hard is enough. We think they know how much we love them. And maybe they do. But love needs presence too. Not perfect words, not expensive things, not grand gestures. Presence, attention, 5 extra minutes, sitting down when they ask, looking up, listening, being there, really there. Because ordinary moments become priceless without warning. And one day, You may find yourself standing in an empty room, wishing for one more conversation you thought could wait. If you still have someone you love, go sit with them. Today, put the phone down, turn away from the task, take the walk, have the conversation. Listen a little longer. Be there, while you still can. I'm 87 years old, and if sharing this helps even one person choose presence before regret, then Eleanor's words keep living. And maybe that matters. Maybe that's the lesson. Maybe love was never about carrying everything perfectly. Maybe it was always this simple: be here, while you still can. A few weeks ago, my son came by the house. He's older now, gray in his beard, moves slower than he used to, and for a second, watching him walk across the porch, I saw the little boy he used to be, the same one who used to run through our hallway, the same one Eleanor held in her arms, the same boy who once stood in the kitchen needing his father, and I was too distracted to understand. He sat beside me. Neither of us talked much at first, just listened to the wind moving through the trees. Then, after a while, I turned to him, and I said something I should have said years ago. I said, "I'm proud of you." Simple words, but I meant every part of them. He looked at me, quiet, then smiled, and I added, "I should have said that more." He didn't laugh, didn't brush it off. He just nodded, and then he put his hand on my shoulder, like men sometimes do when words feel too small, and he said, "I know, Dad." Then we sat there together, quiet, comfortable, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel rushed, didn't feel like I needed to fix anything, didn't feel like I had to carry anything. I was simply there, present, and I thought about Eleanor, about what she told me. Be here while you still can. That sentence changed how I wake up, how I move through my day, how I talk to people. Even simple things. The cashier at the grocery store, a neighbor walking by, my daughter calling in the evening. I slow down, I pay attention, I look up, I stay. Because at 87, I finally understand how sacred ordinary life really is. Not the big milestones, not the things people post about, not achievements. Ordinary life, a laugh from another room, a familiar voice, a shared meal, someone sitting beside you, a hand reaching for yours. That's where life lives. That's what we miss when we move too fast. And that's what hurts the most when it's gone. If Eleanor were sitting here beside me now, I know exactly what I'd do. I wouldn't talk about tomorrow, wouldn't mention chores, wouldn't say, "after this." I'd just sit there, a little closer, take her hand, look at her, and be fully there. That's what I'd do. And maybe you still have that chance. Maybe someone in your life is in the next room right now. Maybe someone has been hoping for 5 minutes of your full attention. Maybe someone you love has asked you to slow down, and you've been saying later. Please don't wait too long, because the ordinary moment you postpone today can become the memory you ache for later. And trust me, regret is a very quiet thing. It doesn't scream, it just visits you. At night, in empty rooms, in old photographs, in songs you used to hear together. And all you can think is, I wish I had stayed a little longer. I wish I had looked up. I wish I had understood sooner. Eleanor gave me many gifts, 41 years of them. But the final one, the one that changed everything, was a reminder I carry every day now. Be here, while you still can. If this touched you, leave a comment below. Tell me someone you're grateful for today. And if there's someone you love, go sit with them for a while. No phone, no distractions, just be there. because time feels endless until one day it doesn't.